friends, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Fort Worth Roots. $200 million.
Yeah, 50 million.
Is your butthole just slammed shut the whole time? You're hanging that thing up on the wall?
If it was, I think I couldn't do it.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just
real steady hands.
Yeah, I know. I'm losing as I'm getting older. I'm not so steady.
You can find Fort Worth Roots on all your favorite streaming services. There are videos that go along with these episodes on YouTube. Just look for Fort Worth Roots on all platforms. On social media, it's also Fort Worth Roots. Big shout out to our sponsors, Roofing Solutions by Darren Houk. You can go to roofingsolutionshouk.com or 817-882-6520 to get more information. If you call them and tell them that you heard about them on the Fort Worth Roots podcast, you will get 50% off on a roofing tune-up. We've got more announcements at the end of this episode, along with more information on more sponsors. So stay tuned for that. One event that's coming up, and I don't want you to miss this, Friday, December the 23rd, that's next weekend, A Very Itchy Christmas. Our friend Richard Keller from Itchy Richie and the Burning Sensations is putting this on, along with a bunch of other people's help, out at Southside Preservation Hall. Here in Fort Worth, they're going to have Daryl Sellers at 5 p.m., Big Heaven at 6, Itchy Richie and the Burning Sensations will be on at 7, and then Doc Rock with the Traumatics will be playing at 8 o'clock. This is a great lineup. Don't miss it. Again, that's going to be at Southside Preservation Hall this coming Friday, December 23rd. Doors open at 4 p.m. Today's guest is a friend of mine, an extremely creative individual, and a major force for good here at the Fort Worth Roots podcast. He's been supportive through everything that we've done here, and I'm excited to finally have gotten him inside the studio. We've done a lot of stuff in the past. Most of it's been at his studio or out in the streets. So you can check his show out on Instagram. It's the_failed_podcast. Make sure you pop over to Instagram and give him a follow. Support this guy. He's got a lot of cool ideas that he's working on. All right, that's enough talking out of me. Thank y'all again for being here, and please give it up for my good friend Sam Esquival, and let's start the show.
Oh, yeah. Fine. Dude, this is the first time I put on your headset. I've seen it all on the...
That's right. We've always done it at your studio, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm here with Sam today with the
And you're always
podcast.
recording. You're always recording.
I'm always
okay,
recording.
Sam. All right, turn it on, Sam. Okay. Clean it up.
How's that sound? You need levels adjusted?
Yeah, just a little bit up.
How's that?
Up. Good, right there.
Okay. We're just going to...
If not, I can't. I just get too loud, so...
All right. I'm here with Sam with the Failed Podcast. Sam, thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to look at a reel that...
By the way, he didn't tell me we're starting, so I hadn't put on my makeup or anything.
Yeah.
I know I got work to do, and I know that it's all going to be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. I know I'm blessed today. I know I got work to do, and I know that it's all going to be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
There it is.
Okay, so you dubbed over Shia LaBeouf's little speech there.
Yeah, man, because he's like trending. The last interview he did was like kind of epic. You know, it was deep, and he kind of was a different person.
The one from like a year or two ago?
No, it happened within a month. It was huge. And so that was a clip that was trending on Instagram. So I said, I'm going to use it. And I was talking about something else. But the message in that little clip there, it that's how I feel. That's about what I'm doing and where I'm heading.
Yeah.
And so who better to say it for me than Shia? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it seems like you're putting out content every day. Like you're putting out a new video all the time.
Yeah, I'm trying. I do take. You can see there's some gaps in there, but during those gaps, I'm thinking and I'm learning, and trying to be strategic. That's all, and having fun. Yeah. For me, it's fun. It's not like it's not work.
It's got to be.
Yeah, I'm not trying to bore people.
It's got to be fun for you because, I mean, the podcast life is rough. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you just need to quit.
Yeah.
That's the only point of this, really.
Yeah, everyone jumps in like super excited, and I just feel like not being negative, but saying like, dude, it's there's going to be some points where you're going to feel like, what am I doing? Yeah. So you just got to know what it is.
Well, what
it means to you.
People don't realize how much work goes into this. I mean, I certainly didn't. Nobody does, right?
No,
I'm just going to do a podcast. But I've got a buddy, and I'm not going to say your name, buddy, but you know who you are. He got hired on to produce a podcast for these two very well-off dudes. They're business owners, surgeons, something like that. And they just decided they wanted to goof off and have a podcast, right? Just them sitting there BS and having a conversation or whatever. So they hired my friend to produce this show for him. He's got the equipment. He's taking care of the social media. He's doing everything. Literally, all they have to do is sit down and have a conversation.
Dude, that's great, man.
Well, it sounds great,
for them.
right?
I'm saying for them.
No, it sounds great. Okay, fast forward 6 months later, they've got, I think, one recording done, and he's pulling his hair out like, guys, come on, just let's get together, do the episode, and, let me go to work. Well, they're paying him this whole time. Like, they've got him on, like, kind of a retainer. Like, monthly checks are getting cut, you know?
It's like a gym membership, man. You just get it and don't go.
So he's getting paid regardless, right? But they're not even putting in the work to sit down and have the conversation.
Dude, you get it into something deep because I know the process of, like, doing a podcast, talking, having content, and that's what I specialize in. And so whenever I'm doing something, someone can come in unprepared, but I'm going to drive the conversation. So when, him as a producer, I would just push that, man. Like, don't even let them wait. Don't wait for them. You tell them I'm ready. Shoot them with 10 questions just so they can have content, and then and let them do whatever, and then come up with 10 more and just do it. Chop it up and divide it and do all this. Let me. I didn't know we started, and so I can't proceed. I can't proceed until I do this because, first of all, thank you for your friendship.
Oh my God, dude!
Since I've met you, dude, you've been so open with me and welcoming, and you invited me to an event that was a podcasting thing, and I'm not antisocial, but I'm not really out in the public sphere. My life is very closed off and stuff. And so you introduced me to all the podcasters, and now I've talked to them. I've had some on my podcast, and I really feel a sense of community, and you're the one who kind of brought me in. So I wanted to say thank you on your show, and I'm a supporter of the Fort Worth Roots podcast. And recently, you were your number one Critics' Choice for what was it?
Fort Worth Weekly.
Fort Worth Weekly, and I know now, there's a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of, and no one wants to use this word, and I get it, but there's a lot of competition. And so at the end of the day, the ones that do the best, they're going to be the best. And so you got the stamp for 2022.
This go around, one time, folks.
It's okay, man. And so you're
the best. Describe this to our listeners.
2022. This took a lot of time to make. No, joking.
For the people not watching the YouTube video, Sam has pulled out a enormous, elaborate trophy that's customized. It's also been customized.
It is, and look, I even printed your face on it. Look, you see that? And so it says,
"It's my reflection."
You're the best 2022 Fort Worth Roots.
Thanks, man.
I know it's kind of makeshift, but it really means a lot for me to be able to give this to you and say congratulations, well deserved. Next year is going to be, I think it's going to be a bigger competition between all the podcasters.
That's good, man.
So everyone has to step it up, and so I'm rooting for you. And the Funky Panther guys had the reins for a minute, and those guys have been really cool to me as well. I've had a chance to talk to them, so you can't win them all, So, but when you do it humbly, and thank you for promoting the podcast scene in Fort Worth.
It's really cool.
And so there you go.
I accept this award on behalf of the Fort Worth Roots podcast. You're the best 2022. Thank you, Sam. There's a lot of competition, but I think I know that it's healthy competition because we get together, we joke around, we have fun, and you just see a lot of promotion in between each other's podcasts. Like, everybody's trying to help everybody out.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool.
I like that.
And I think we're onto something with the Pod Squad, which is a nickname you're part of this.
I'm in it. I'm in it, man.
It's a little nickname that's gotten picked up. I don't know who started that, but we are the Pod Squad.
There you go. Stay tuned. More to come.
I just love it. And, I mean, everybody is so creative, and new ideas are coming up all the time, and it's just the coolest group of people, most sincere individuals I've ever been around, and I'm just eating it up. I love it. I ran into we had a surprise birthday party that I couldn't talk about until now because it was when was this, Friday?
Yeah.
Friday for Susie from Fort Worth Famous.
Got it.
And so she showed up, and it was her 50th birthday party, and we had a ton of people there.
Nice.
And we were able to pull it off. We got the surprise,
Yeah.
whenever she walked around the corner. It was really cool. But just stuff like that, man. Just really building a community. So it's been cool, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But bringing you into the fold was kind of just a natural process because we kind of integrated together. Like you and I were kicking it before I really started hanging out with the Funky Panther dudes.
Got it.
Whenever we went to...
It didn't feel like it. It felt like this dude's in it. You're just a natural with people, and that's important as a podcaster.
I'm trying to remember the name of that event that we went to together. PBR,
yeah. For downtown, it was downtown Fort
podcast
Worth.
and PBR, something like that.
Yeah, I had too many words.
Yeah, but Robin from Corks and Cowtown put it on, and Funky Panther Boys put it on, and so they invited us all out there, and I don't know if I queued you up on it or what, but we went together.
Oh, yeah. You're like, Sam, join me, blah, blah, blah. I show up. You're late or whatever. So I'm sitting there. And
I was towing an anchor that day.
Okay. And so I didn't know anyone, but I said, I'm going to go ahead and go. I was just like, man, where is Andrew? Because as soon as I say hi, I'm saying bye.
Yeah.
But I ended up talking to a few people, and since then it's been good.
Yeah. And I remember getting there, and you did seem a little bit off or panicked or something. Like Sam was not okay.
Yeah.
And because you were out of your element, like you said, you didn't know anybody, and I didn't know that you had that kind of social anxiety, which I have too.
Yeah.
I think you exhibit the signs a little more than I do sometimes.
But I got to get
especially back then. I think you're probably doing better now.
I just got to get into a conversation at least with someone, and it helps. But if not, I'm not there, man. It's hard.
Yeah. But that was kind of the genesis of it. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
And I've still got that silly video that I took. I don't know if I've done anything with it, but you remember I had the GoPro and I'm running around, and I think I was kind of bugging people, so I put it up. Like, okay.
I did one interview.
This isn't
the
scene for this.
I interviewed two guys from the TNT podcast out of Dallas. I talked to them. I never published that recording, but they ended up coming to the studio, and we did an episode with them. Cool guys.
Like pretty soon after that, too, right?
Yeah, within a month they came down, and we got some other things in the works that we want to do together. We flowed really good, but that came out of there, and then I met one of the Osos that day, and then
Juan, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It was two of them. I talked to Juan. Yeah, so it was good, man. And I didn't realize what I was stepping into. And then now it's been like 3 or 4 events that I've shown up to. And, I didn't feel alone. I was able to say hi to a few people. And
now we're all family.
Yeah, now we're cool. Now we're keeping up with each other and supporting each other.
Well, and I need to do a better job of getting these guys in the door because I'm so jealous that you've had on so many podcasters on your show. Like you've done a good job of connecting.
Same thing here, man.
But I need to get better at that. So this is important, getting Sam here to the studio.
Well,
but you said it a minute ago, and it just kind of stunned me. I can't believe this is the first time you've recorded on the Fort Worth Roots.
Yeah. We've had mics and hung out a few times, so it feels like we have. Yeah. I haven't even done an official episode with you. We did let's just call it a half and half.
Yeah.
And it was off the cuff real quick. But yeah, man, you're going to come on the Failed podcast as well, and I want to take a deep dive into who Andrew is. And so
and then we sat together at your studio and interviewed Genevieve.
See, maybe that one kind of threw us, like, it made it feel like we've done more. Yeah. Because that was a long, very high energetic.
It's like a 2-hour-long recording.
Yeah.
It was a long episode. Yeah. It actually.
And then we did the Tim Love thing, I was able to.
You were there for that.
That was great, man.
Sam was my support system at the Tim Love thing. He'll tell you, or maybe he won't tell you because he's a nice guy, but he could tell you that I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have you there, it would not have probably worked out.
No.
I knew I needed you.
It was my pleasure to serve, man.
And I called you up that day and just, hey, man, this is super late notice, but here in a couple hours, could you meet me to do this interview? And you were on it, dude. You just showed up for me. I appreciate that so much.
No, I'm down, man.
That turned out to be a really good recording, I feel like.
It was.
But
I heard the episode. It was good. People don't realize that whenever you're recording, and when you listen to, it's completely different.
Absolutely.
Like, you get to really see the product once it's published. Right now, we don't even know what we're making because we're so in the moment. Yeah. And so I heard it, and you continue to do a good job, and you did a good job on that interview. And so, it was cool to kind of be there and watch it, because
firsthand.
Yeah.
You remember at the very end of it, because I have had this happen before with the Rodecaster. If it loses power, or if you don't hit the record button to stop the recording, and it loses power, it will not save the recording. So we were packing things up. Tim stood up and walked out the door so fast.
Yeah,
right?
busy man.
And I was trying to get the gear together, and we were moving really fast. And I looked at the Rodecaster, and it was dead. All the lights were off. And you remember what I asked you?
Dude, okay. I know it like it. Dude, I can replay it in my head because
I was absolutely
because I was
panicked.
tearing down. That way you didn't have to think about it, And so I come and I remember I was like, okay, turn it up, boom, and then because I have the exact same one.
Yeah.
And then I unplugged everything, and then you look, and then you're like, did you push the record button? In other words, you're asking me, did you push file and save?
Yeah.
And I knew I did because it's natural for me.
Right.
But I didn't want to show any, like, that I didn't.
No question.
Yeah. So that day I remember, no, I did. Don't worry about it. It's all good. And then, obviously you have the GoPro as a secondary, but it would have been horrible to use that audio. But I was sure I did, but then it got cut in half as soon as you asked me.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my gosh. I know I did. I really hope I did. So until you told me later,
oh, man,
I got the file, I was like, yeah, I know. It's all good.
I ran home. I mean, I was speeding. I don't usually speed. I was on my motorcycle that day. I was running to the house. I mean, I was just leaving stuff in the yard. I was breaking stuff off the bike and trying to get to my SD card. And I ran inside and I plugged that SD card in the computer and pulled the file up. And sure enough, it was fine.
Yeah.
But I was just in absolute panic mode. Have you ever done that? Have you ever lost a recording with a guest?
Yeah, it was one or the other. Either it was the video or the audio, but I was able to save it because I had a secondary, like, okay, I got it from my camera or here, but I did something. It was one whole episode. I didn't push record until the end. There it is. Double tapped. And all I heard was, that's it, blah. And that was all, man.
Shit.
And I lost the whole, I didn't have the whole interview. I was able to save it through my camera. I had to miss with the levels. It was a little bad, but I left it on. Considering that the Failed Podcast is about failures and challenges, it kind of goes with the brand.
Right.
So when I launched it,
Adapt
I said,
to overcome.
Yeah, so I told the audience, like, look, man, I failed at this one. I'm still going to release it because sometimes you
I
just
remember
have to.
that. Okay, yeah.
But that was it, man, and it's happened.
So I got the Tascam. It's a little handheld recorder, and I've been trying to figure that thing out. So the first event I took that to was the bikini pool party over at Whiskey Garden that I got invited out to by Romero. Royal. He goes by Royal.
Okay.
Anyway, he invited me out there, and I'm like, I'm not really sure what the guy wants me to do, right? He wants the podcast to show up to this bikini party, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm coming. I just don't know. I mean, I definitely want to be there for it.
You're responsible for dead air. Yeah. So there's no dead air because you're a communicator.
Well, and I got there, and I set up, and everybody was real cool, and people were talking to me and stuff, and we did they included us in the judging portion of it and all that good stuff, but I just really wasn't sure what I was doing. But it gave me a chance to play with that Tascam, and by the end of the day, I was convinced that this $250 box was just a brick of shit. Like, it couldn't record.
Yeah.
It would record for about 30 seconds and shut itself off. And then whenever you'd listen to the file, it was cutting out stuff. So if somebody was speaking a sentence, it would only catch about 70% of it. It was weird. Wow. It was cutting in and out.
That's weird.
So I got in there and I found the function that was making that happen. Turned that off, right? And so the Tim Love thing, another thing that freaked me out was that Tascam. I had it with me.
I know.
And I thought I had all the bugs worked out, and it's sitting there. And it's supposed to be just, capturing anything in case this thing went down, we had a backup.
Yep.
And it only captured about 12 minutes of audio. Yeah, it just shut itself off, man. So I don't trust the damn thing.
Yeah.
So I got to play with it because I'm sure it's just user error.
I got to show you mine.
You've got the best equipment, dude.
It does not feel like but the only reason I have a lot of like reliable stuff is because I've been through it all. I mean, I've bought expensive, I've bought cheap, and I've tried so many things that at this point in the game, I've narrowed it down. I know what I have and I know it works, and I know it in and out. And so there you go. I don't want to think about it. It's just a tool for what I'm trying to do. And so
yeah. All right, we've done all the icebreaker stuff. Now it's time to talk about Sam. What started the failed podcast? Why did you get into podcasting, sir?
Well,
spotlight is on you now.
I know Okay, so the failed podcast came out of the epidemic, man. I just had a rough 2.5 years from losing a business, going to the hospital. You know, I was in there for a week, super scared, about
you mind
life.
telling us what that was about?
Yeah, I had COVID.
Okay.
And I was like just a few breaths away from getting, what do they call it?
Intubated?
Intubated.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the worst that can happen.
Yeah, statistically, that's a very bad sign.
Yeah, so I was, it didn't happen. I came out, and then I had I had a leadership position at a church, and then the things went downhill. And but good things came out of it, but that was also horrible. So I had all these fails that kind of happened to me that made me question everything: life, my finances, as a provider, as a husband, as a dad. And I was just like, man, I feel like a failure, man. And failure just kept popping up in my conversations with my wife and everything. And I was like, man, and prior to that, I was getting the wheels rolling. I have a nonprofit called Cultivate Leadership Project. Super positive about leadership, training young people. We were adopting schools, helping young people, and then all that happened. And I said, I cannot come out of this doing that right now, because I would have to be like fake Sam. Yeah. Because my mind was not there. My mind was around failure.
Yeah.
And I just kept talking to my wife, failure, friends. And I was like, man, this has happened, and I'm just down. And I said, man, you know what? Maybe I should do something called the Failed Podcast, because I had another podcast that was called Cultivate Leadership Project.
Okay.
So if you look at my feed, I have, I think, 20-something episodes for the Failed Podcast, but I have 60 plus or more for CLP, and it's all leadership stuff. Yeah. And I decided to leave a few of them on, and I had some other things on there. But I left them on because that is my other passion, and it still continues to be my passion. But I rebranded, like the famous word, I pivoted to the Failed Podcast, because all of a sudden I've become an expert in failure. You know what I mean? It was either going to beat me up, knock me down, or I was going to come out of it somehow. And so for me, I wanted to take a hold of it because I felt like it was a good way to connect with people.
Yeah.
To say, you know what, like, yeah, it's easy to connect with people when you're successful and you're like, okay, brag a little bit. I'll brag a little bit. That's fun. But you're leaving out so much that can bring you closer, people, community, and so on. So I started talking about the Failure Podcast with friends and stuff, and they were opening up and telling me things that I never knew just because of the approach.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time on the show, but there's so many different ways that you can tell a story, like the lens that you look through life at, right? Yeah. And failure is something that everybody has experienced. If they haven't, then they probably haven't graduated past first grade, right? I mean, that's just part of life. Failure is part of the process, right? So that's a very common thread, a good lens to tell stories through.
Absolutely. And so I told my wife, I'm going to launch the Failed Podcast. And it sounded kind of funny. I looked it up, on social and everything. I said, okay, it's not really out there. I mean, there's a million things about failure and overcoming. Yeah. But the Failed Podcast brand was available, so I took it, and I'm running with it now. And it's been great. I've been enjoying it. And I tell close friends of mine, hey, the Failed Podcast, and they kind of, are you okay? What do you think? Like, I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like,
I'm a failure.
Yeah. Right. And it can sound like that at times, because in order for us to fail properly, you do have to examine how you failed and why you failed. And so some people try to avoid it, but that's why we're here, because we want to talk about it and put it out there to help people.
What's the craziest interview you've done so far? I mean, I know that everybody that comes on your show, you analyze their story through failure, but have you had some really badass failure stories?
Yeah. Oh man, one of my interviewees, he came in, and his brother was working at a company selling credit card processing. Okay. And his brother came up to him. He had a suit on, and he's like, and he's only been there like a week. Yeah. And he tells his brother, you got to come to this company. It's amazing, and you can make a bunch of money. And he was working somewhere else and making decent money. It was
stable. He was stable.
Yeah. He goes, okay,
let's do it.
He came in. His brother had quit. He didn't even make it. He went in and he's working, man, making calls, traveling, doing all this mess. He gets a check. I forgot what it was, like $1 something or $12. And he goes home and he tells his wife, "This is my check." And everyone, because they would go eat every Friday as a family when he would get paid. He goes, and he said, "Man, we're not."
Oh my God.
He goes, He goes, "I told them we're not going to be able to go out to eat." And then I go, "Well, what'd they say?" They go, "Well, we just started crying." And we were laughing. But it was a crazy story. The crazy part is I was looking for someone to interview. And it's funny because you ask people, close people, friends of yours to come on and they don't. They feel nervous or whatever. And You're just like, where's the support? A friend of mine was going to come on. He goes, "I can't come on, but call my friend." I didn't even know him.
Yeah.
And I called him, "Hey, I need a guest. Would you be available?" He said, "Yes." When, where, and how. And he came through. He was an MMA fighter, and he has like 3 or 4 gyms around the area.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
And man, he had so much energy. He's gonna come on soon. Again, we did it over the phone. He's gonna come on in person. He had so much energy, and we laughed so much. But it made me realize that as I do the Feld podcast, as I start aiming for more lofty goals, it's going to require for me to step out of my comfort zone. It's not going to be, I hope it'll be some friends and family.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's going to be more people that I don't know that I got to go out and find in order to make this thing grow.
I think that, like, for me, my recent failures, I wasn't able to talk about them until I'd gotten my head back above water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that sting might be just a little bit too fresh for somebody that just experienced that failure.
Yeah.
But you probably don't want that story until they've had a chance to step back and do some introspective thinking about it and break down,
absolutely.
Okay, this is where I went wrong. And really pick apart their own story before being on the show, right?
Yeah, I never do nothing too fresh because they could lose it, right? Yeah. This is so I focus on storytelling. So I always start, tell me how you grew up. And then that's how we get to the failures and challenges in their life. I never say, "So you lost your business last week. Tell me about it," because they're still probably mad. Yeah. So
I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to eat this week.
Yeah. So no, I don't do it that way, man.
Well, speaking of, where's Sam from? How did Sam get started? I know that you've told me a little bit about your mother and your upbringing and the struggles that you faced in the educational system, but we haven't told the Fort Worth Roots listeners about that.
Well, okay, so I grew up in Southside Fort Worth, and when I started school, I'm first generation, very little money, very little English in the household, no education on my parents' behalf. And as far as like the view of the world and how it works on over here in the U.S., I didn't have that. It was very limited to my culture, very limited to my family. So I lived in a small circle of people, and so life was really simple.
Yeah.
But I struggled in school, and I don't know if this will help, but my story is it's filled with failures and challenges and embarrassing things, where I couldn't read or I couldn't write. I was always getting into trouble, and people just didn't believe in me for so many parts of my life just because of how I was living, and it affected my confidence, but it also affected how I am now. And so part of the Feld podcast, goal, or we have some initiatives that came out of my life story. So I'm going to throw them out there. And then stop me or whenever you want. But I feel like these communicate what I went through and what it's going to promote. Okay?
Show me what you got.
So here we go. So some of the vision. I'm going to tell you the vision for the Feld podcast, and it's based on my story. I hope this works. This is my first time kind of presenting this, and I'm kind of dropping it.
Really?
Yeah,
this is your first time doing this?
Yeah, but this is my life and my purpose behind the Feld podcast is. Okay. So the vision for the Feld podcast is to provide tools and resources to better understand failure and challenges and how to overcome them. Why? Because growing up, I had to learn English. I had to be in the class that learned slower. I couldn't read and write. I struggled with it to now. I'm just confident and I can make it happen. But back then when it was important, There was grades that reflected it, and it was just a hard climb, or journey through the system, through the school system. And so because of my life, I have some initiatives, okay? And so one of them, should I say all three, or should I just go one by one? And then what do you think? I'll name all three, and then we'll break them down.
Okay.
And then you help me tell the story. The first one is to promote the importance of literacy, to expand knowledge and imagination while increasing the chances for a bright future, okay?
Is that one of them?
That's one of them.
Let's discuss that then.
To promote the importance of literacy, okay?
So how, through the podcast, are you going to promote literacy?
Well, the podcast is the microphone. Okay. So how I'm going to roll this out is by working with educators and youth programs.
Okay.
And my resume is the podcast.
Yeah.
Why are we going to have Sam come in here and talk to this youth group? Well, he has a podcast. Look who he's interviewed. Look at the wisdom and knowledge he's gained from so many people. So that's how I'm going to roll that out. So this is my megaphone.
Yeah.
But there's a community side to it, and it's that. So I get to share how hard it was for me to read and write and the negative effects that it's had on me. But then once I learn to read and write confidently, what doors it's open. And being in front of some kids or some young people and hear that I think it will inspire them to want to do it. And whenever you think of storytelling, that's where it falls in, because I want to help them write and tell their story. So then they can learn what it's like to write it down and then read it in front of you. That's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
So that you can write the way that you speak. Usually that gap is so big because of the way that they teach English and grammar. And so one of my gifts in life is that I'm able to write the way that I talk, and I talk the way that I write. Now, the school didn't teach me that. I taught myself that. Mm-hmm. So the gap in there is very small, so I'm able to write something and read it verbatim, and it sounds like I'm just talking.
Right.
But it also helps me share my story more efficiently. And so I want to put that out there, and that's how I'm going to do it. And so we have some relationships with some schools and stuff like that, and some youth programs, and so that's where I'm hoping to promote that. And when people come on, they're communicating. Some of them are educated, and so I'll be able to also ask them what they think about what's a favorite book you read, or are you working on a project, and so to help promote the importance of reading and writing.
What grade level do you see yourself kind of attaching this mission to?
Well, I was a youth pastor for a long time.
Okay.
So high school is my specialty.
Okay.
But my wife teaches in elementary, so I don't mind, but I think middle school is the sweet spot, but high school is going to be where it's at, because they're stepping into, they're about to go to college and stuff like that. And so ninth grade, I remember how hard it was. Like everything I didn't learn in middle school and all that, like it hit me when I went to high school. And if you miss up in ninth grade, dude, you're going to miss up. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you fail ninth, and then if you're a troublemaker and you're not doing good academically, the odds of you dropping out and failing are very, very, very high.
But freshman year needs to be a positive experience.
Yeah, and so I feel like that would be a great age group, a great area to talk to some people to change their mindset on how they see things or how they see themselves. And so to me, literacy, reading and writing is so important. No matter what level you're at, you can do it.
Well, it's the best way to exercise your brain, right? I mean,
exactly.
In order to form new pathways for original thought and creativity. So.
Yeah. And so the second one is connecting people from all walks of life and situations from the basis of storytelling. Okay, the way that I'm going to roll that out is through the podcast. And I feel that whenever there's different cultures and communities, they have a hard time talking with each other because they're talking about things that they can't connect with. Like you mentioned earlier, failure is one of those things that we all go through, and that if we understand each other's failures, it might bring us together at the table, and we might be able to talk.
Yeah.
And it also opens the conversation for generations to be able to talk. An older person with a younger person, it kind of helps guide the conversation. And so that's another one of our initiatives, is to connect people. So I want to connect not only like the people that I interview, like successful people, people who've done a lot, to bring them in front of young people who need to see that, to be exposed to that, so that, let's just say, like me, I'm a Latino, that I don't just see nothing but like white guys coming in and talk to me and saying, you can do this and you can do that. And I'm like, okay, I want to see some of my brothers and some of my Latino people.
Somebody that looks like you.
Yeah. I want to see.
Somebody that had the same family
understanding,
upbringing, or whatever. That's okay. That phone can stay.
Yeah. And so, that's also the purpose of the Feld podcast, is to be able to connect people. And so I'm hoping that we continue to do that. But that's one of my initiatives.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the idea behind podcasting, I believe. I don't know. It's different for everybody, but I think at its fundamental level, connecting with folks is one of the major threads to podcasting. So that's a pretty natural goal there. I feel like that fits the format.
Yeah. And another one is develop communication skills through the art of storytelling. So this one's easy. This is providing resources and show the different styles of communicating through my guest, and so that's why that's one of my initiatives. And then a few other ones are creativity, goal setting, self-esteem, and leadership. And that's all going to play out in what we're doing and how we're communicating. So yeah, man, I guess those came out of my journey of how I grew up. And I think that's why I'm doing the Feld podcast. Not only to have fun, I enjoy just talking with people and helping them share their story. But at the back end of it, I also want to be able to leave a positive message in the community, so that when they do hear the Feld podcast, they say something positive about it. And so,
well, that's why I'm so excited to work with Sam, because you and I have something that the other ones have picked up on. The other podcasters have picked up on this thing and have kind of harped on it lately. But we handle our podcast in a slightly, forgive me if I'm overstepping here, but a little bit more of a professional manner. You know what I mean? Like we kind of attack it as a strategic business type thing, almost, because we're intentional with how we're rolling out our social media and what our plans are for the future and things like that.
Yeah. No knock on no one. I mean, there's room for entertainment. There's room for, public service. There's room for legacy and doing that, and so the sphere that we're moving in is, like for me, like I'm about community and helping other. And if I can get a platform, I'm not only gonna push like the Feld podcast, but I want to push something else that's gonna help someone.
Sure.
And so,
but definitely not a knock. I've had people tell me this, and it's kind of driven me nuts, because I thought I was one of the fun guys.
I know I'm not.
And I've had specifically the Funky Panther guys. They've told me, like, oh, you're so, there's Andrew with his notes and little comments like that. I'm like, what? You guys don't have notes? They're like, no.
Look, just so you know.
There's Sam with his notes. But I'm not the only one.
Thanks for the invite, guys. They had come out to the Feld podcast, and so it was funny because they were talking about it on their podcast, and they said, "Man, we were talking with Sam, and we were like throwing stuff out," and then he goes, "I realized that it wasn't that kind of podcast." So they were like, so we just kind of straighten out.
Yeah.
But they also realized that with the three of them, that I managed the conversation in a way that they had
really well,
and it was so fun.
Because that's not their typical format.
Yeah,
and you did a good job of kind of leading the conversation and getting to some specifics that probably have never been covered in their show. But yeah, that's great. And you're right. Everybody's got like kind of a different persona, or I don't know how to put it, but the shows are different. Like you take Osos Colosos and compare it to yours, not the same show.
No, we're opposites.
Not the same show.
but they're funny.
I love it.
I've had one of them on. I want to have all three. My goal is to also have the Funky Panther guys. They've already told me yes. We just haven't been able to set it up.
Well, be careful with that, because they've been telling me yes for a long time. Tim, Javier, I'm calling you out, guys.
Yeah, dude. Okay.
Chad has been on the show.
Maybe we should do a duel, like me and you. They sit like in the middle, and we just do a deep dive. And we'll see if that works, guys. If y'all watching, maybe we'll think about it and we'll see if we can make it happen. I think it'll be fun.
I know Chad's listening. I don't know if the other two listen.
Yeah, no. If they're not, then Chad, just let them know.
Chad Funky.
It'd be fun. You know what I mean? But yeah. So managing 3 is very difficult, and so whenever they came on, it was like a challenge for me to be able to drive that conversation. Again, leading to the communication part of the Felt Podcast initiatives and how important it is to be able to communicate with individuals, whether you have common ground or not, whether you have a purpose or you don't. When you communicate, it just brings you into the circle, right? You can step into things that you thought you could never step into just on the basis of being able to communicate. And
No, there's so many life applications for what you're doing, and there's limitless possibility for it.
Yeah.
Through education or just self-improvement or whatever. I want to talk to you about your studio a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I might have the shot a little overexposed for the camera if you're looking at the YouTube video, but I've got Sam's Instagram pulled up, and you have been busy working on this studio, man. And I got to pick your brain because I'm trying to update this studio.
Yeah.
It's been a slow process. We've had a lot going on, but I'm going to be leaning on you for information,
I'm
man.
here to
So
help,
tell me
man.
a little bit about this build out for your studio.
Well, if you watch my YouTube channel, you would see that I used to have a table between the couches, and it just felt a little crowded recently, and so I'm always upgrading, whether it is folding a cable a certain way or running my board or turning it a certain way just so it looks good on camera and it's more efficient and easier to use. And so in this time, I went ahead and mounted my microphones on the edges of the seats, and then I positioned them in a way that they're away from the camera but on camera.
Are people less likely to bump into them now?
Yeah, everyone bumps into them. And so I'm just like, do not touch the mics. But when you get podcasters in, they're very comfortable with the equipment. So they do more than the normal guests. Like today, you can see me, I'm like drinking stuff and moving it, but just because I know how I'm just comfortable. But I also got like new cables, little things that I've done so that whenever you're watching the video, there's more depth to it. And so I've added some sound panels.
Yeah, did you notice a huge difference when you put all this sound deadening panels up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a lot of bounce in there just because of the way the mics and how close they are to the wall. Mm-hmm. And so I had to kind of fix and help that. And so as you're talking, you can just tell, even if you're not recording, you're just talking that little area, you can feel it.
Something I noticed is, so we just put these curtains up.
Yeah.
They're thick, blackout, like very, very heavy duty curtains. And as soon as I hung those things up, I could feel the difference in the room. And I'm I just need a bunch of curtains. Like, so perfect. But I just wonder, with those sound deadening panels, like if you put them up and you can also feel the difference in the room. Yeah. Because I know it's just sound, but it does feel like a tangible, like you can feel the difference in the room. Like the pressure changed or something.
Yeah, because like people don't have a good volume whenever they talk, like on a podcast, especially if it's their first and only podcast that they've done. Yeah. And so you got to put up the gain on your mics pretty high. So the bounce that the mics are hearing and not the bounce that your ears are hearing. Yeah. And so that's what I'm working towards, is making the mics, what they pick up, sound better. Yeah. And so that's why, and they look good, obviously.
It looks great. And I think it looks a lot better than the headsets. The headsets kind of look, I don't know, like a news conference or like a sports event or something like that. But the microphones, standalone headsets, that looks more like a podcast.
Yeah, right? And so maybe when you come on, my goal is to do one. I'm going to try, because I'll do it with headphones as well, because I think you can kind of drive everyone's volume that way. But I'm going to do a few episodes without headphones. I'm just going to bring in the people, and we're just going to talk. Without headphones and just in the room. I'm going to see how that comes out.
I don't even know if I could handle that.
Well, me and you probably couldn't, because we do it all the time. But for people who don't do podcasting, it's going to be so natural to them. Right. Yeah. This isn't natural to them. And so you can just tell that they struggle with it. Yeah. So I'm leaning towards doing something like that. So I'm always making small adjustments. It's almost like on a weekly basis that I'm studying, learning, and implementing something. Yeah. And it might be just a small tweak here and there.
I love having the person I'm talking to like right here in my head. Yeah. I was sitting with Lucas Peterson. We were out in 13 acres. It's a resort. down in Dripping Springs, just outside of Austin. And I took this. I actually think I have it here today because I just moved stuff out of a storage building. But anyway, I've got my big 8-person tent, and we took that down there. And it's 8-person tent, and then you walk through it to like exit the tent, and now you're in like a sunroom. It's like a screened in, like mosquito screen, and like 4, maybe 5 people could sit in there and chill. It's a cool little spot. Anyway, rabbit trails. Anyway, we're sitting in there, and I got the Roadcaster with us. The whole point of the trip was we were going to go back down to Austin. We're going to meet up with some old friends, and we're going to do some recordings.
Yeah.
So we had the Roadcaster. We're sitting in the tent in the little screened-in area, and he's on his side, I'm on my side, and we're talking. And we're just in nature, dude. There's, birds flying by, and it's beautiful weather, and it was just absolutely perfect. And we're sitting there just talking. And I can't remember what episode this is, but I put it out there as a standalone episode, I believe. Yeah, like the trip down to Austin or whatever. And but just having each other right here in your head, like he was sitting further away than we are right now.
Yeah, if there's distance is important.
And we were like in our own worlds, just like looking at the nature that we were out in, and but still plugged in, like totally engaged in the conversation. So I really like that. So I don't know what my reaction would be sitting there having a conversation without having a headset on.
When bigger spaces, you need headphones.
Yeah.
Right? And for a moment, I wanted these. And I'm still going to get some of these because if I'm ever doing a Feld podcast episode in public or in an open area, you can't do that format. No. This is the only way to do it. That's why people on TV, when stadiums, they do it because there's just no other way. Yeah. So this is a good tool for, and I like it. I mean, I remember when I first saw yours, I was like, man, they're so cool. So I'm glad to be trying them. And then your episodes sound good. So I know that they can produce a good episode. But in my close quarters, there's a little more flexibility.
Sure.
Because of how close we sit, and I think it might work. But again, it's just wanted to give it a shot and trying new things and trying to always improve.
Yeah. Well, I like it. Sam's studio is located just off of 7th Street. It's in a dope location. I'm a little further out. I'm about 6-7 minutes from your studio, I think. Yeah. But I love your location.
Thank you, man.
And I'm not a big fan of 7th Street anymore, but it's still right there on the edge of downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah. It's very central. It's easy for people to find. And so for now, that's why I'm there.
It's a good space. And you've got cool people around you. I think you enjoy being around those other business folk down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're quiet, business people.
Yeah. Well, you're the one that gave me the idea to get a brick and mortar location. Out of everybody that we hang with, you were the first one, I think, to have a brick and mortar location.
No, congrats, man. Yeah. You have a bright future ahead of you, and I'm here to support you, and I like what you're doing.
Well,
and so
you steal little bits and pieces of what you like that your friends and your, you guys are people I look up to and lean on for advice and stuff like that. So you're actually responsible for quite a few things that we do here at Fort Worth Roots.
Oh, man. Well, you're responsible for a lot, too, and thank you for just being you, Andrew. You're just a cool guy, bro.
Same on you, man. Thank you. We're 46 minutes in. I can keep going. What's your schedule look like today? What are you doing this weekend?
This weekend I'm just relaxing, man. Taking it easy today.
God, what's that like?
Oh man, I don't get a lot of it. I stay pretty busy with work, and obviously the podcast, and just learning. Like I'm always learning. Like, my goal is I'm always listening to auditors, interviewers of all types, to see what's out there, see how the podcasting thing is changing. But yeah, man, relaxing for me is like that, like fixing my studio, cleaning it up, you know.
And I try to dedicate time like every single day to get in here and do work. That's my workstation over there. Behind the camera is the workstation. Yeah. And I called it a workstation. Typically, there's not power tools sitting on the desk, but I mean, it happens to be today.
Behind that, it's like a mess, man. Well, look, I'm going to throw this out there, okay? I wanted to introduce a few things here on the Fort Worth Roots podcast as far as what the Feld podcast is working on.
Reining it back in.
And I have 3 projects that I'm working on. Okay. And so they're pretty big, and I want to put them out there so that people can be motivated for the Feld podcast, but that they can also understand the Feld podcast a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to hit you with one,
And
just give me your thoughts.
And I want your ideas. And then if you have time, I want to tell you some big ideas I've got.
Please, man.
Okay, let's hear.
That's what I want to do, man. Okay, so the first one, I grew up in Southside Fort Worth. Okay, lower income, a lot of immigrant families, great community, but it's got like, if you were to look at the demographics and the crime rate and all that, there could be some negativity coming out of that. But at the same time, here I am, a product of Southside. I still believe in the Southside neighborhood, but it's more of the type of neighborhood that it is that I feel the Feld Podcast can come in and make a difference in this. You can find these neighborhoods in every city around the U.S. And so the first project that I'm working on, and you'll watch this and you'll see this all being rolled out on my YouTube. It's the Southside Voice Project, okay?
Speaking of your YouTube real quick, what's the
Just
YouTube?
type in the Feld Podcast.
Okay.
I don't have it up there, but I look like this, a hat, and I have 2 lights, okay?
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, you're really good at all the descriptions, so just scroll down, click on a link, and then you'll see what we're working on. So the Southside Voice Project is being a microphone, bringing a microphone into the community that I grew up in to tell the stories of overcoming challenges.
Now, are you fluent in Spanish?
No, but I'm efficient.
Okay.
I can have full conversations.
Okay.
I mean, I've taught a lot.
To me, that's fluent.
Yeah, but I have some of the wrong words. I use the wrong words in certain things, and so. But no. I mean, I've taught in front of full Spanish groups and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'm confident in it. I could be better. But the goal is to go into the Southside community and begin to share some of the stories there that have to do with failures and challenges. And so I'm going to start connecting with my community in Southside and see what comes out of it. And it's going to be a Feld Podcast projects, and that's in the works. And I look forward to not only doing it but launching it and seeing what comes out of it, and hopefully, just open people's eyes, so that they don't like judge a certain part of town.
Yeah. They might never go through that neighborhood, but you're bringing them into it so they can see what's actually going on.
Yeah, and so that's the Southside Voice Project. Man.
Very cool.
So I'm looking forward to that. The other one, it's called Stories That Inspire Change Forum. And the goal, it might be annual, but biannual at the very minimum, okay? And so this is going to be like a TED Talks thing, and many will share their stories and inspirations, and they're going to literally have a platform to share it, but it will be very structured. And in this, we'll be able to give them a spotlight and launch their journey into whatever their life story, failures, and challenges gives them, and set them on a path, whether they're going to be nonprofits, podcasters, they're going to create movements, whatever. I want to kind of create a forum for that. And so the first one is going to happen within a year, and it's going to be based around the Feld. There's going to be a book that I'm going to write.
Okay.
And for now, obviously, the title is The Feld. That led to pain and turned into purpose. And this is going to be my life journey. And in that life journey are my initiatives and how they line up to what I'm doing. And then that will trigger the rest and help the rest. But those are 3 projects that I'm working on that I'm looking forward to. And they should be happening.
You're going to be busy, dude.
Yeah.
You're going to be real busy. And you do have a full-time job also.
I do.
Like every one of these podcasters.
Yeah.
So what do you do on your day job?
Well, so my day job is it's niche. Let's see if it makes sense. And so I am what they call like an art installer / art consultant. So I handle artwork for people as far as like museums and private collections. I install, create, deliver, and it's all around the fine art world.
And is this your business or?
Yeah, I do it for myself. I've been doing it for a long time, and then so I continue to do it. Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, so I just came back from Palm Desert, California.
Oh shit! Okay, so this is not just DFW.
No, this is
you're all over.
Is nationwide. I have clients everywhere. So, so I've been, people will fly me to Miami and say, Sam, I have this painting and I need it installed. But it's not like a $200 painting. It's a $200 million painting.
Yeah.
And so I'll fly in and I'll coordinate a crew out there.
$200 million
Yeah, 50 million, 100 million.
Is your butthole just slammed shut the whole time? You're hanging that thing up on the wall?
If it was, I think I couldn't do it.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just
real steady hands.
Yeah, I know. I'm losing as I'm getting older. I'm not so steady, but I understand the process, and so
I don't know, man. I saw somebody talking about hanging this chandelier at a new home build, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this chandelier, you're talking about, did you just say a $200 million piece of artwork, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
So these guys were hanging like a $500,000 chandelier. And I was like, I wouldn't touch that if my life depended on it. My God, because you're suspending this thing over like a spiral staircase or something like that, and it hangs down in the middle, but it's like 30 feet, okay, not 30 feet, maybe 15 feet off the ground, right?
And we've done it. Like we've done like glass sculptures that are chandeliers, and they're complicated. Like it is. You have to understand what you're doing.
What kind of insurance do you have to carry?
Well, that's always the question I get asked. And so the owner, for the most part, has to have their artwork insured, because if not, no one could run a business insuring. No. But there's insurance for accidentals and stuff like that. But trust me, accidents happen at a minimum. Like if
you would hope.
Yeah.
But it does happen. You can't predict everything.
And so the difference between that chandelier and then let's just say a chandelier that's a piece of art, not that someone says, that's a piece of art. No. Like the art community, the cost, the name of the person that made it, that
flew somebody in from Fort Worth to hang it.
Like this is real art. The difference is that maybe if they were to drop it, they could literally reproduce it the next day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's what's the difference. Yeah. So the stress level there is still high because you don't want to get hurt or damage it. Right. But there's no stress that it's like
destroying a one of a kind,
like a Matisse or something. You know?
Jesus Christ.
That's world history.
My palms are sweating right now, Sam.
Yeah. And then I've done work for like all the museums in town, as well as museums outside of Texas. So I've also handled not only priceless pieces of art, but some of the most renowned pieces of art that people see when you go to museums. You know what I mean? So I help with that as well.
So have you picked up how did you get into this, first of all?
Well, a long time ago, I was at the Amon Carter, which I consider that my home museum. Yeah. And I love the arts. And so that's how I got into it. I helped them put up the Abaddon show. They gave me a chance to do it. I came in for a few weeks, and they liked how I worked, but there was no jobs available. And so they put me onto a company that did it. And I called them and got a meeting with the owner, and they hired me. And that's where I started a long time ago.
That's so cool.
And so that's what I do. And so if you notice, my schedule is pretty flexible when you call me. Well, because it's my own thing, I control my schedule and stuff. And so, I'm blessed in that way. And so it also helps with the podcast and the creative stuff that
and I knew quite a bit of that. I don't want you to think I forgot everything that we've ever talked about, but I wanted the audience to
so that
learn a little bit about Sam. That's really cool, man. So earlier when I was talking about the reason I didn't have this TV mounted to the wall, I was telling Sam, it's a cinder block wall. I've been warned against trying to put this thing up there. And he's kind of looking at me, and he's looking at this wall like, man, there ain't nothing to that.
Yeah. Right? I install so many things, man, that, I just understand the game.
Yeah. So in your line of work over the years, have you kind of picked up an affinity for art? Is there certain types of art or certain artists that you really have a lot of appreciation for now?
Yeah, I love French and Spanish art, 18th century, 17th century. I really love sculptures, like monumental sculptures. I realize the difficulty of making them. I like modern stuff is amazing. Just to watch it hit whenever they auction stuff off, and then it's like, this sold for 200 million, 300 million. And knowing that I've seen those pieces, or I know the people that own them. Whenever you hear of Christie's on TV, this watch sold at Christie's for $6 million. I go to Christie's in New York and all that, and so, but no, I love art. At the Carter, it's they got a lot of Western theme art, American art. So I like taking my daughter there so she can start appreciating it and talking about it and feeling comfortable in that environment.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, growing up in Southside, and not having a lot of money or access to a lot of things, I didn't grow up going to museums.
Right.
And this was something that I've learned here in my later life, but I wish I would have.
Yeah.
So since day one, I've been teaching my daughter to appreciate those things, feel comfortable in that atmosphere, and understanding what goes into doing some art. And I remember the Monet show at the Kimball that was there within a year from now or something. It was absolutely amazing. Like, I've seen paintings, that I can, and I know people hear this and they're like, it's not real. Like, but they touch you. Like, when you understand the artist and their life, and then you think of Monet and you think of his eyesight fading. And so it was like a journey of good eyesight to bad eyesight.
And surely you can see that inside the...
Yeah, so he started losing like color. He couldn't see color, and so he went from being amazing by by some guy that doesn't understand art saying that's beautiful, and then you look at an older piece when he can't see and you say, man, that's ugly. I could do that. But it's the journey.
Could you do it blind?
Yeah, and commitment,
Yeah.
It'll just touch you, man. It'll change. Like, to me, art has changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that I don't share with a lot of people. But I visit museums on a weekly basis. It's the same museums in town, but but I understand, like, whenever art changes, whenever new stuff comes up, whenever the museums are acquiring something new.
Yeah. New exhibits.
Yeah, and so I enjoy it. And
That's
so
cool. I've kind of been robbing myself of that. Like, I need to see these museums, and I'm embarrassed that I haven't been out there to see them yet.
You should be. And so let me take this time to promote the Fort Worth museums and their world renown, having the 4 buildings that we have, the 3 museums that we have here in Fort Worth, is like, as far as when you look at the world, it's up there. It's like one of the top locations for art. Let alone Dallas, having the 3 museums over there, top notch, man. But even just the buildings alone, like the Renzo Piano building at the Kimball, I met the guys that like designed it, like Renzo Piano, like when he was in town, and the guys that made his models. I talked to them, and so it's cool, man. Like, not just the buildings. I mean, not just the art, but the buildings are amazing.
We've got something real special here, and we should be taking advantage of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can connect me with somebody out there at the museum, and I can get them on the show, and maybe we could do something out there at the museum.
Yeah, that's what
cool. You can come with me.
Yeah, that's one of my goals, man. I want to get I know the directors, some of them are my friends, and I really want to get them on, but I have to be, I think I might introduce you to them before me. Your resume right now on your podcast is a little better than mine.
Come on.
And but just the people that you've interviewed, I think if we throw that out there, I think we can do something. So if you're watching, you're listening, and and obviously I have some friends that are connected to the museum, like very, very close. And so hook it up, man.
Well, here's what we'll do.
Set up a meeting.
We'll make it a Fort Worth Roots thing if you're cool with that. And Sam needs to be there to help me ask questions, because obviously I've just outed myself. I'm an idiot when it comes to art and culture and stuff like that. So it'd be good to have you there, somebody that intimately understands all this stuff.
But even when I think of museums, understanding like the art and like the bougie side of it, because there is a bougie side to it where it's expensive, and the wealthy people are the ones that own it, and these museums they're the only people who can buy them because everything is so expensive. To me, it's like when I walk in there, I just wish there was more kids like me in there, and there isn't. And so by me working with the museums, which I'm not, but I would love to, is to promote that. Yeah. So how do I get kids from Southside to go in there? Yeah. But not just them, but their parents.
Do they have like a children's interactive?
They do.
Because they had a museum in Abilene, where I grew up, the Grace, and they had an entire floor full of like fun little interactive science exhibits, and not a whole lot of art. The art was on different floors, but they had a lot of cool...
Was it like Science and History Museum?
I'm trying to remember how much... well, see, that's the thing. I have not been to this one.
Well, the Science and History Museum is great.
A lot of interactive stuff.
Learning stuff. That's different.
What kids want to put their hands on stuff.
And that's different. And so that... Yeah, like if you talk about the Kimball the Carter and the modern, it's not that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want. That's what I would want to teach.
Just an area dedicated to the kids, you know?
Yeah, the kids' areas are very small. They do have stuff going on all the time. There's tons of school groups that go, but it's very lecture-based, very communicative, very visual, and that's how you take in fine art. And just to understand that, I think it's important for a young person like me, whenever I was young, to get that, because it does show you, it is head base. It is knowledge and wisdom that you gain, and then the research that goes behind every artist, and then the age that they were creating. There's some art, dude, that I look at, and they made it in the 40s and 50s, and they're hanging at the modern right now. And people are like, man, that's amazing. That's how far ahead, like count from 1940 to 2022, whatever 30, 40-year gap, that probably more, I don't know, I'm bad at math. That's how far ahead they were.
Yeah.
And then you get people today making art that matches the art that they see there.
Yeah.
That was made 40, 50 years in the past.
Yeah.
You're artistic, but you're not ahead.
Right.
And the greatest artists in the world are always ahead.
Yeah. Same with music, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys might not be ready for this, but your kids are going to love it.
I love it. I have a little DeLorean in my studio. Can you see it there? No, because I love Back to the Future.
Find it. Where is it?
There it is.
Oh, yeah. There it is. I don't know if that's going to come through good on the camera.
I always make references to it.
Very cool.
No, but yeah, man, thank you for asking, man. I never share this part of me, but I love fine art, man. I love looking and learning about artists and where they made it and the journey of stuff that got bought. Imagine a painting that got bought for $1,000 and they had to pull your arm to buy it, like a Picasso back in the day.
Yeah.
And then now it's like crazy expensive. I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
There was a painting, and I have to hold back a lot of information so no one comes after me. It was a painting that was by a real famous artist, and it was hanging in a house. And the patriarch of the family passed away, and there wasn't proper documentation as to who was going to have it.
Let the bloodbath begin.
So, needless to say,
Knives out.
There was marshals involved.
Shit.
There
dude.
was lawyers involved for each sibling. It was going to be worth between like $60 and $75 million.
Oh my God!
So it was worth the fight, but like the ugliness came out, the greediness
destroy
came out.
a family, man.
It did. So there were some people involved that they needed to authenticate it. So all of that happened. It's all good.
Let me get that out of there. Actually, this is Darren Houk. We got to get him on the show. Let's see here. Let me put him on speakerphone real quick. Welcome to the Fort Worth Roots podcast, sir. This is Andrew, host of the show, but that's not important. The show's about you. Go ahead.
He doesn't know he's on the show.
I thought it was about the sponsors.
Well, it is about the sponsors. Absolutely. Let me roll that back.
So, did you get even more mobile with that podcast?
I mean, we're fairly mobile. I don't know that there's a more mobile setup. We can go anywhere.
Oh yeah.
It's not waterproof though. I guess aquatic issues might be a problem.
What's not waterproof?
No.
What's not?
The Roadcaster.
Why haven't you told me that?
Well,
I'm pretty good at waterproofing.
it's a computer. You want to?
I thought you were talking about the vehicle.
No. Well, that thing's somewhat waterproof, but no, I'm talking about the gear. The gear's not waterproof.
Oh, I got you. So I was referring to as the good-looking black Sprinter van in front of your.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's Sam Esquival, and he's the producer for the Failed podcast, and we are actually recording right now, and you are now part of the episode. Special guest Darren Houk from Roofing Solutions by Darren Houk.
There you go.
We don't need that. I just.
It's happening. You remember the Mark Nobles episode?
Yes, I do.
Well, now you're in the hot seat.
Well, I was just complimenting your beautiful new Sprinter van. I think that'll make a great podcast.
It is very nice. So he does a art installation all over the country, and that's one of the tools he uses to get the job done.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to meeting him and seeing what that's about. I like art installations.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. All
right, man. Well, I'll let you get back to your podcast. Sorry for it.
Okay, I'll holler at you, Darren.
See you.
All right, see ya. All right, it's always fun to do those.
He's one of the sponsors, right?
Yes, Darren is one of the sponsors, great, and man. So if it's somebody that's relevant to the podcast and we're doing an episode, I'll put it in there.
I love it.
Let's get back to the story.
Well, they went to authenticate. It turned out it was fake.
Shit, dude.
But this is so. The punchline is the art was fake, but the way they reacted was real.
But yeah, the family's destroyed.
But anyways, that's just something that happens behind the scenes. But I love the arts. Support your local museums by visiting, and if you can, donate. And it's you don't visit a museum once every few years. You can go every 3 months. They'll switch stuff out, but in between, they're always switching stuff, and so their goal is always to teach.
Yeah.
No matter what's in there, to teach, to give. If you read the little plaques, I know most people don't, but if you read them, it really does give you a lot of information. There's a lot of professional people and time that goes into just writing those things.
I'm going to make that one of my serious priorities, getting a hold of the library, or the museum, and see what kind of trouble we can get into with them.
Yeah.
So we're already
Which one would you like out of the three, just by looking at him or knowing them? Knowing of him a little bit, which one would you?
I'm big into science. I like all the nerdy stuff. So
the Science and History Museum.
That would definitely be something I'd gravitate towards.
Got it.
But I tell you what, this weekend there was Oktoberfest, and we walked through one of those little Oktoberfest things. I got the pavilion set up, little 10x10s, and we walked past a photographer's 10x10, and it stopped me in my tracks, dude.
Yeah,
I saw this and I'm like, oh my God, these are so beautiful. Oh. He's a landscape photographer, right? And so he was out doing something, and he comes by about 3 minutes later, and I've already kind of taken it all in. I was like, dude, did you do this? He's like, yeah, these are all my photos. I'm like, Jesus Christ, these are amazing. So photography is another type of art that I don't know. I don't know why that's just a showstopper for me.
Yeah, photography is one of those arts or those mediums that have had the hardest time being considered fine art. Now, the Richard Avedon show, the Carter owns a lot of his collection, and he's a photographer. And he was down in Sweetwater in the rattlesnake thing, and he did a lot of photos. And so I appreciate some of the art, and they have a wide collection of photography.
Yeah.
And to understand, this dude is photographing stuff and selling it right now. Guess who paved the way?
Yeah.
Right? They're in the museums right now, and it's important to understand why he gets that opportunity. And so, but that's great, man. I love photography, but I love oil on canvas.
Yeah. Sure.
I love watercolors, small watercolors. They're absolutely beautiful, but oil on canvas, big frames, huge paintings. I enjoy them.
Yeah. So. Well, we need to make a trip to the museum maybe next weekend.
Yeah, not the Science and History. I don't go there
unless
I take my daughter, or they're hiring me, right? But no. We'll go to a fine art museum. We'll go to the Carter.
Okay.
They got a lot of Western stuff, a lot of prominent stuff that has to do with American art.
Yeah.
And so it's a fun museum. So
let me fire through this real quick because I mentioned that I was going to tell you about my ideas.
Do it, man. I'm listening.
So the studio.
Yeah.
So behind us is a huge room. I've got this little space here for the Fort Worth Roots podcast, but behind us is a large room, and half of it, if you cut it in half, right down the middle, is going to be for a kind of a jam space for bands.
Yeah.
So if a group of musicians want to come out here and shoot a video, nice. I'm going to have a backdrop. I'm going to try to do it upright. I'm still leaning on my musician friends to come up with some ideas and what I need to set that up so it's cool.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the room is going to be 4 different backdrops for podcasts.
I love it.
So when you know how hard it was to get the equipment and the space, and if I could take that off of someone's plate, they don't have to worry about putting that part together.
Yeah.
It's going to make the whole getting started with your podcast thing a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. You ever seen the Tiny Concert?
Help me out.
It's called Tiny Concert, and it's in an office. And
Oh yeah.
okay, so that concept is like
Is that the name of it? Tiny concert?
uh-huh.
Okay.
And tiny concert. Don't quote me now. You're making me question myself. But they bring in, it's like a NPR thing. I believe.
What is it? Was it Tiny Desk?
Tiny Desk.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Anyway.
It's one of those. But the point being is that they have just a regular thing.
Right.
The way they set up, it works perfectly. So you really, dude, if you do, it's not that hard.
And this is supposed to be just a fun, low cost, super easy.
Yeah. And you know how I would set it up? If you ask me, I know you're not. I'm just giving this.
Oh, I'm asking. I'm asking everybody.
Is this? I would put a camera and decorate based on the camera.
What do you mean?
So I would put my phone and put it on video. And if it didn't look good on video, I wouldn't put it in.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's going to be
Oh,
best.
yeah. No, that's
so
how
it's like the proper lighting, the proper contrast, so it's not so busy.
Yeah.
And that's the point of view that I would decorate it.
I was so impressed with how effective this was at changing the entire room. And if I'm pulling the curtain, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I'm pulling it over now so you can see it. But it's just this silly red curtain, and it looks amazing. It changed the room.
Oh, yeah.
So, because, before I'm pulling it back so you can see that.
No, it's great.
I just had that gray drop cloth.
Yeah, small things improve. That's what keeps people from doing things is they want it to be perfect and amazing at get-go.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you don't start, that's what you can blame it on that.
And when we were doing Susie's birthday party out there, Dustin Snyder put this on JJTM at Lola's for Susie from Fort Worth Famous. And I was talking to Chad Funky, the Funky Panther.
Yeah.
Anyway, just all these connections. But I was telling him, like, I've got all these big badass ideas for that room back there, but I'm just gonna have to pull the trigger and do something simple.
Yeah.
So for now, I'm just gonna put up real basic backdrops and just make that room suitable for somebody to bring a 4 or 5 piece band.
Dude, I love it.
To do a jam. Just
I love it.
Hang out. And then we're gonna have a lounge in that back room.
Oh yeah.
Coke, sodas, beers, wines, whiskeys, a couch.
I'm in. I love it.
It's not, if Paul Rogers is listening, this is not a casting couch, Paul. Gross, man. We're going to have to, if he comes in the door, we got to watch him. There's something wrong with that dude, He's a nice guy. There's something wrong with Paul.
We'll have to put Plex between.
Love you, Paul. And then, update this thing. I don't know if you know this, but neon signs, that is a lost art that is kind of dying out.
Oh, I know. But I know the best neon place in Dallas.
Do you know the best one in Fort Worth?
No.
There's one called Neon Time. Tyme.
Well, the reason I know of them is because I know these artists that do neon art.
Okay.
And they make it at this one place I go to. So I know the dying art because there's not a lot of places. Now they're using LED lights and they just bend them.
Right.
But yeah, neon lights is.
Yeah.
You gonna make one? You gonna make a neon sign?
Oh yeah. So I've already talked to the guy and I'm gonna commission an art piece.
Very good.
I feel very fancy saying I'm going to commission an arts piece.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm either going to do Fort Worth roots and neon across this back wall or, Pod 817, something. I don't know.
Now, when you do it, we're just talking here, by the way. I hope that this
that's what it turns into here
you're
at the
enjoying
end.
it. But for instance, like if you did this, if you had a TV there and you're recording, you have to drop the tint on that.
Right. And I have lowered the brightness on this just so it's not overexposed on the camera, but it still is. It's still
or
overexposed.
like because you're using a GoPro, but like let's say if you were using a camera with manual, you can the sensor won't read that. And so like for instance, there was
you change your ISO and your shutter speed.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, like when we did the episode for the 100th for the Funky Panther, they had the neon sign on the table.
Yeah,
and
so the
camera kept reading that. It thought it was like sunlight.
Yeah,
and it was making y'all real dark.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's another thing I want to do is put some good studio lighting in here.
Yeah.
So it'll bring everything else up, and that won't be so damn bright.
Yeah.
And tell you what. If you can reach it without ripping everything off the table, you see that white dangly cord?
Yeah,
put that switch on. I meant to have that on and I forgot. So
that'll help.
That, if you're looking at the YouTube channel, the light that I meant to have on just, raises the temperature of the entire room.
Yeah,
so.
having that there is very useful.
Yeah.
Because you can literally just do a track like this way, and that changes the whole game.
Look at that.
Yeah, like that.
That's what this room was.
You
This
just
room
changed
used to
the
be
whole
the
game.
Artful Village, and they had art in here on exhibit. And so these were meant to showcase different pieces of art. You could turn the lights in different directions. So I'm just being lazy. I've got all the equipment here.
Yeah, no, dude.
Even forgot to just flip the damn switch on. So.
I'm rooting for you, man.
Well, thank y'all for listening to this week's episode with our friend Sam Esquival. Go check out the Feld podcast. What are all the handles? Where do they find your stuff?
Man, you know what? I ain't even gonna say it.
Okay.
You're so good
What's in
at
the show
putting it
notes?
in the description. Just click on the links that Andrew puts below. And yeah, man, thank you so much.
I love that trust.
Yeah, no, you will.
No, I appreciate you,
no,
Sam.
thank you
You've
for
been
having
such
me.
a great friend and an incredible resource with all this. And, anytime I've got something going on, you're more than happy to show up and support me. And I really do appreciate that. And Fort Worth Roots is always here to support you. So
Thank you,
Let's
man.
do-
Hey,
let's
y'all,
do- go ahead.
sorry,
No,
man.
go ahead.
Keep an eye out, man. The initiatives and the projects that Fort Worth Roots. Look at that. I'm like, the Failed Podcast is got in the works. It's just meant to bring some positivity into the local community, and we just want to make a positive change, man. So thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for allowing me to kind of launch it and drop it here on the Fort Worth Roots podcast.
excellent.
And there you go.
All right. Fort Worth Roots is the winner of the 2022 You're the Best trophy from the Failed podcast. Sam, thank you so much for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Peace. Sam Esquival, everybody. Sam, thank you so much for being at the Fort Worth Roots podcast studio. We're throwing this thing together. It's starting to really come to life, and I'm starting to get a little more excited about bringing people over here so they can see the cool stuff we're doing. But Sam got the full tour, and I think we've done some improvements since then. But anyway, just glad to have you here, Sam. Thank you for all your support. You've been a very positive force here at the Fort Worth Roots podcast, and I thank you for your friendship and your support. All right, what's up? I was just telling you about an event at the very beginning of this episode. Southside Preservation Hall. It's going to be Friday, December 23rd, this next weekend. Doors open at 4 p.m. There is a cover. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's $10. It might be more, it might be less, but it's going to be cheap enough that it's not going to break the bank. Daryl Sellers goes on at 5, Big Heaven at 6, Itchy Richie and the Burning Sensations at 7, and the Traumatics, 8 p.m. It's going to be a great event. Richard Keller really busted his hump trying to put this thing out, and he picked the bands he wanted to play with. So that's why it's such a badass lineup. So go out there, have a good time, do something that's going to be cheap and fun and very memorable, and support our friend Richard Keller. All right. That's it. What's the date? Hold on. How close are we to Christmas? Is that next weekend? Yeah, 23rd, 24th, 25th. Yeah, Christmas. Christmas is coming. Did you get all your gifts taken care of? Running out of time. Gifts. Here's a cool idea. Buy something local. woodpostmetalworks.com. Using podcast 817 at checkout, you get 10% off everything they got. These guys have been busy. I don't know if you have the Fort Worth Roots Facebook page, but we're always posting stuff whenever we catch it. Wood Post Metal Works will put up one of their new designs, and we're quick to share it just because it's cool. You need a way to customize something at work, a new sign for the office, thousands of other things. Go check them out. It's light steel metalwork, plasma engraving. They also work on like fences and things like that, custom metal stuff. So give them a check out. Check them out. Give them a look. Podcast 817 for 10% off at checkout. Houk Walker Originals. These are the folks that do the laser engraving for our cups and so much more. If you need personalized swag for your office or cool gift ideas, this is another great resource. You can check out Houk Walker Originals at houkwalker.com. And, of course, Roofing Solutions by Darren Houk. RoofingSolutionsHouk.com, 817-882-6520. And these are the people that put on the River Oaks Springfest Car Show 2023. It's going to be off the chain, off the hook. Chain or hook, you decide. This year's was great. The YMCA Camp Carter, we had it out there last year. And it was big. It was big, and we got way more people than we thought we would. The food trucks that were out there actually ran out of food because we had no way to estimate how many people were going to be out there. this coming year, we know. We have a better idea. A lot of the people that were involved in this last one are going to be there. People that weren't actually out there last year doing stuff will be there. We've got more people coming, more stuff to do, more awesome and exciting details on the way here shortly. But that's the kind of people you're dealing with over there at Roofing Solutions by Darren Houk. They're very engaged with the community, doing a lot of cool stuff, and they've been extremely supportive of the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Not only that, if you're looking for a roofer, and you will be because you live in North Texas, these are the people you want to use. They're local, they're trusted by the community, and they have excellent ratings. Don't take my word for it. Do your own homework. Roofing Solutions by Darren Houk. You can Google it, see all the good stuff. Roofing Solutions, Houk.com, 817-882-6520. Other announcements. I know we got a big show at the Ridgely Room. This is December 6th. Jeff Zero is going to be out there. I know that our friend... Oh, what's going on with my head right now? Joe. Jesus Christ. Joe Guzman has just started up a new band recently, and this will be their debut performance out there. It's called the Space Poets. This is going to be another cool one you can go check out. We will be there. We've got tickets. So December 6th, go to that. And it will also be at this December 23rd. December 23rd out at Preservation Hall to support our friend Richard Keller and just have a badass time. That lineup, one more time, in case you weren't listening. Where are we at? There it is. I see it. Daryl Sellers. All honestly, I don't know who that is. Big Heaven. Excellent. Got to see Big Heaven. If you're into local music and you've never heard of Big Heaven, this is one that definitely needs to be on your list. Just like Itchy Richie and the Burning Sensations and the Traumatics. I don't know if you know anything about Doc Rock and the Traumatics, but it's hard to find a radio station, a local radio station around here that's not playing their stuff now. And they're brand new. I don't think the Traumatics have been around for more than a year. I might be wrong on that detail, but they're new. And they're on all the radio stations now. Excellent band. This is going to be a really fun night. And we raved about this on and on and on. I had Richard Keller and Pryor, Slim Pickens, on the show a couple nights ago. We were doing a recording, and we were just kind of going off about, people spend $500 on a Garth Brooks ticket to sit in nosebleeds and pay for $18 beers and eat boats full of dried out chips with the cheese juice drizzled on top for $15 a pop. You'll go out and you'll do that as like a bucket list item. But this event right here, you're going to see 4 bands that are arguably way better than any band you've ever seen. All 4 of them. I'll figure out who Daryl Sellers is. I just hadn't heard that name before. But it's going to be an excellent, excellent time. And it's not going to cost you $500. The beers are going to be cheaper. The food, I think there is going to be food there. The food will be better. If not, you could bring a sack lunch and it'd be better than the shit they're serving at Dickies Arena. Sorry, Dickies. Anyway, okay. Point being, you can literally go to a show every weekend for free or $10-15, and it won't add up to the $500 you'd have to spend on one of those mega superstars that sometimes plays over here at Dickies. Just get out of the house and come support these guys. It's excellent. We had a great time just the other night. Well, shit, it was last night at the Post with Avery Burke. She did her last show of the year. I don't know that she's done with her Tuesday. She has a residency out there at the Post, and she plays every Tuesday out there at the Post. I don't know that that's done, but this was her last big show for the year, and we caught her at the Post. It was incredible. It was so incredible, and the energy in the room cannot be duplicated by listening to it on your MP3 player or home stereo system. You need to get out there and you need to see these shows. And we're always talking about supporting people, but support your damn self. Improve your mental health. Get out of the house. Experience something. Anyway, I'm rambling. All I'm saying is go to shows. Go to shows because it's cheap, it's fun, and it's good for you. I would submit, I'd say it's good for you. All right, we're done here. Did I cover everything? Shout out to our listener supporters, Angela Walker and Stephanie Daniels. They are Patreon supporters. They make a monthly contribution to the show, and we'd like to, grow Fort Worth Roots to a point where we can put out material more than once a week. Shit. I'd like to do a morning show. Wouldn't that be cool? I don't know. Just lots of stuff. I'd like to do more stuff. But we got to get some support. So if you like what we've been doing, if you believe in the mission here at Fort Worth Roots, you can support us. You can go to patreon.com and just type in Fort Worth Roots. Our page will pop up. There's a couple different little options there that you can choose from, but for as little as $4 a month, you can support the show. But just listening, just streaming one of these episodes is it's a lot of help. It helps our analytics, helps us grow the show and reach new listeners. So thank you. You are supporting the show by listening, and you listened all the way to the end, even with me ranting and making incoherent statements. You did it. That means you're a super fan. You're a Fort Worth Roots super fan. You never miss an episode, and you listen all the way to the end. So do me a favor, whatever platform you're on, hit that subscribe button. And if it's got an option for automatic download, hit that one too. That way it's always ready for you, even if you're on an aeroplane. You can still get it. On social media. We're always doing stuff on social media. I try to keep up and post stuff all the time. Sometimes I go through weeks where it's just too much to handle. So there might only be one or two posts. But we're trying to share activities that our events that our friends are throwing, putting on, local musicians that are contributing to the community and things like that. On our Fort Worth Roots Facebook page, there's also a fair amount of content on Instagram. Most of our sharing happens on Facebook because they make it so simple. What are those things called on Instagram? Are they Reels? I think that's where you find the stuff I share on Instagram. People send me stuff and then I'll just repost it, and I think it ends up as a Reel. And then TikTok. TikTok is the dumpster I put all my weird stuff in. So if you want to see weird, kooky Fort Worth Roots stuff and a little bit of weird, kooky Andrew stuff, it's on our TikTok page. It's all Fort Worth Roots. Easy to find. Okay, I really have done it. I've talked way too much. All right. One more time, Sam, thank you for being part of the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Thank you so much. We love you, buddy. And we're looking to do more cool stuff with you. So don't forget about us. All right, listeners. Y'all are the shit. Thank you so much. I love you. And I'll see you next week. Merry Christmas!